We're close to Rubicon. Wake the dog up.
Handler Walter verified. Activating cerebral coral control device. Augmented human C4621 has awakened.
The opening cinematic of Armored Core 6 establishes a few things. Our name and who we are, an augmented human named C4621. Handler Walter, who refers to us as a dog. By his title, Handler, we can only assume that Walter is meant to control us, direct us where we need to go, tell us what we need to do.
Main system activating combat mode.
As we learn more about the gameplay mechanics once we land on the planet Rubicon 3, a line Walter says adds far more context to our situation.
If we get our hands on Rubicon's coral, we'll make a killing. Plenty for a merc with a fried brain like you to buy their life back.
A fried brain. 1 month before Armored Core 6 released on July 20th, 2023, the story trailer was uploaded to YouTube. In it, we are greeted by a scientist from the Rubiconian Research Institute, interjected by a battle of 3 armored cores fighting against the Planetary Closure Administration, or PCA. The battle results in the deaths of 3 augmented humans, C4617, C4619, and C4620. Handler Walter makes an appearance, looking for another augmented human to join the ranks, C4621. 621 is taken out of cold storage, and the events of the game transpire soon after. We make it to our destination and begin our hunt to find a mercenary license. It's needed for us to operate on Rubicon, otherwise we're illegally on this planet, and the large corporations will want nothing to do with us. In the haunting wreckage of a crater, surrounded by PCA craft, lies the independent mercenary Raven. We take the mercenary license, destroy the PCA heavy combat helicopter that spots us, and our duty serving as Walter's hound begins in earnest. As we advance through this first mission, something becomes extremely evident through the constant enemies, the PCA craft, or the environments of Rubicon 3 itself. Something that is typical and understood for those familiar with the Armored Core games as a whole, yet feels very particular this time around. We never speak. This is not a new experience. There are countless games where our protagonist does not vocally speak on our behalf as a player. Sometimes it's called out by other characters, but it's somewhat uncommon to have a protagonist that has an in-universe reason for not speaking. Yes, there are instances like Blasphemous where they do have that in-universe reason, but it is still rare. 621 is that rare instance. The cold, calculated piloting of their armored core is juxtaposed with the emotions of the pilots they fight and fight alongside throughout the missions in this game. Take, for instance, Mission 4 of Chapter 1, Destroy the Tester AC. Before I dive any further, if it wasn't obvious, I am going to be speaking about spoilers in regards to Armored Core 6. If you haven't finished the game and you plan to, this is a fair warning to you. Outside of one line for context, I will not be speaking about anything exclusive to the New Game Plus or New Game Plus Plus playthroughs. Everything I'm going to talk about should all be things you can technically experience on your first playthrough depending on the decisions you make. With that out of the way, let's continue. The Arquebus Group tasks you to destroy an AC being delivered to the Balaam Corporation. As stated, in the hands of an experienced pilot, it would pose a threat far too great to ignore. But at the moment, it's being piloted by a trainee, a pilot who we can assume has never had any real combat experience. It becomes undeniable once you descend upon them and begin this fight. Even at this early point in the game, they're no match for 621. And it's in this fight that we get our first hint, our first semblance of the weight of what we're doing.
Commence mission. We've got a read on the target. Now's the time, 621.
We're under attack! It must be the locals. No, it's an independent.
That pilot's just a trainee on delivery duty, but don't let your guard down.
I'll deal with the Merc. I've been training for this. The Red Guns need this AC. I can't fail this mission. I can't die to a Merc while he kills for credits.
Land a direct hit. It's time we wrap this up.
Walter hasn't exactly been the paragon of kindness thus far, but it's clear that the longer this goes on, the more this trainee pilot is going to suffer. Walter wants 621 to finish this as fast as possible, and when we do,
I just wanted a call sign of my own.
Enemy AC destroyed. That's it for this job, 621. Return to base.
there's a pang of regret that the player is meant to feel here. Us, the one holding the controller, realize that this trainee was not some big bad evil enemy. They were just someone caught in the crossfire. Even Walter has the briefest moment of remorse in his voice. 621 has no reaction, because of course they don't. They never speak, after all. Allow me to be completely clear on this. Armored Core 6 is the first Armored Core that I've ever played. I know little about the Armored Core series as a whole. I have a general idea of the concept of how Human Plus works. The Raven name being a moniker that is used or referenced in virtually every Armored Core game, whether through your protagonist or not. But most importantly, I learned that the game never gives a voice to your protagonist. In fact, they typically never give a face to your protagonist. In doing so, they intentionally and mechanically strip away any relation that we as a player have to the character we are playing as. They are not a character we empathize with. They can't be. They have no relation to us outside of being human, and even that is a stretch when you take augmentation into account. 621 is a tool for the player, not a projection. You can create a multitude of armored cores based on what you think 621 might pilot or what you think looks nice, but the reality is 621 does not feel. And if they do, it is limited, so limited to the point that we as players can barely comprehend the weight of it. The so-called apathetic protagonist is not a new venture into fiction. It's been done in the world of anime multiple times. It's certainly been done in books. But it's hard to slot 621 into any of these prior molds. 621 does not have a face, no body that is visible outside of those few moments within the story trailer. They are their armored core and nothing else. And even that is not an extension of themselves, but rather a blank canvas for us as the player to paint upon. 621 is a blank slate, and the contrast between how we feel as a player controlling 621 and making these choices for them is a fascinating dynamic, especially when Handler Walter isn't our only ally anymore. During the final mission of Chapter 1, 621 is surrounded by a massive surgeon coral, a substance we hear about in the beginning throes of the game, but a substance I haven't specifically spoken of yet. It's an energy source with the ability to reproduce to the point of exponential growth even within a vacuum. It can be weaponized as a very powerful source or even taken as an addictive drug. Beyond that, however, there's a sense of intelligence in coral. It knows where more coral is, and it drifts towards it to gather together. Early augmentation surgery like the one that's been given to 621 was done by using coral technology. Referring back to the story trailer before the game was released, we can see 621 surrounded by these discs that are extremely similar to the pulse weaponry in-game. We can safely assume that the coral was pumped into 621 using this same pulse technology. As a combination of both the augmentation surgery and the surge of coral that surrounds 621 at the end of Chapter 1, we are greeted by our new ally.
Who are you? An older type of augmented human, 4th generation. Have we made contact? I am Ayre, a Rubiconian. Please, you must wake up. Before your consciousness is forever scattered in the coral flow.
Ayre is what is known as a C-pulse wave mutation, a disembodied Rubiconian who can speak directly to 621 using the coral in his body. She has sentience and a personality almost indistinguishable from a human. In doing so, she becomes an operator just like Handler Walter is to us, albeit with a bit more naivety. There's a lot she doesn't understand about what we're trying to do here on Rubicon, and 621 has no answers to give her, considering the lack of speech and the loss of our own humanity. But Ayre is extremely important to the Armored Core 6 narrative. She acts as a foil to the cold, calculating ways of Handler Walter, yet she begins to fill the same role as him throughout the course of the game. While we are closely linked to Walter from the very start of the game, Ayre becomes the one we can relate to the most. I've been referring to 621 as just that, 621. But Ayre specifically refers to us as the stolen call sign from the very first mission, Raven. She never gives us a reason for this, but it becomes much more appropriate once Chapter 3 rolls around, and the original owner of the Raven name confronts us in one of the most important battles in the entire story.
Commence mission. Wait, something's not right, 621.
The battle's over already.
Find out what's going on.
Do you read me, Raven? I've identified the target. That's the mercenary who took your name. Let's see how far they can fly. On borrowed wings.
Did that AC do all this?
Augmented Human C4621. We're not here to take back the Raven name. However, we will see if you can do it justice.
Looks like we found your license's original owner. Tie up the loose end, 621.
A raven is a symbol of resolve. The will to choose what one fights for.
Just focus on the fight, 621.
Yes, Raven, I feel it too. This mercenary has potential.
The will to choose.
It's in this very moment that we get our first real crumb of 621's character development, one that will mean so much in the coming chapters. We win this fight, and we are Raven. We fly on wings that will allow us the will to choose.
Raven, we can still... All right. We'll watch this one. See where they go on a raven's wings.
It's a meta bit of development, recognizing that essentially all we've been doing up to this point is following the whims of Handler Walter. Yes, we have had options about which missions to choose at what time, but in reality, none of our decisions up to this point really matter. Yet they are decisions nonetheless, decisions that we are able to make. If you've played Armored Core 6 before, a lot of what I'm about to do is just going to be rehashing story beats, with some context and commentary. The game does an excellent job of hitting these emotional beats well, but they're important, especially in the context of what I want to talk about after. Let's look to a mission only a little bit before the Raven fight. Eliminate V7. We are tasked with stealthing our way through the city, searching for one of the Vespers in order to eliminate them. The aforementioned V7, Swinburne, a mission given to us by the Rubicon Liberation Front. As we make our way through the city, we're given an opportunity to attack Swinburne from behind. How you deal with this is up to you, whether you walk up and confuse Swinburne before he realizes or take the advantage by attacking right away. But the decision comes after Swinburne has used his repair kits and is nearly bested. There, he pleads with 621.
No, wait! Let's not do anything hasty! You realize I lead the Vesper's 7th squad, which means I hold the purse strings. Every single transaction goes through me. Let me go, and you'll still come out on top. Understand?
You're given a decision to make, the will to choose. Spare Swinburne and allow him to return to the Vespers to receive a higher cash payout, or destroy him here and now for the Rubicon Liberation Front. The choice is ultimately the players. There is a third option, though. If you spare, then attack him during his speech, his AC will immediately explode, and Swinburne will be dumbfounded for you attacking behind his back.
Touch it!
Even Ayre is struck by this action.
Confirmed. Target destroyed. I have a question. The way you dealt with him, did Walter teach you that?
No response from the merc with a fried brain. It falls to us, the player, to wonder why we did that. It all folds back to that very same mantra. We are Raven. We have the will to choose. A trait that will come to strike us even harder at the halfway point of Chapter 4. By that point, we are nearing the end of the game, but there's quite a few loose ends to tie up still. We're about to embark on our final corporation mission. I've already mentioned Balaam and Arquebus a little bit earlier, but now is the perfect time to talk a little bit more about what each one embodies. Balaam Industries is the leading corporation in kinetic live ammunition-based weaponry and heavy load-bearing armored core parts. With their skill in developing heavy machinery, it's no wonder that their in-house mercenary unit, the Red Guns, are piloting heavyweight ACs. The Arquebus Corporation is generally the opposite. They specialize in energy-based weapons and are the direct rivals to Balaam Industries. They also command an in-house mercenary unit known as the Vespers, the majority of which pilot middle and lightweight ACs, with notable exceptions such as V2 Snail or V7 Swinburne. We meet a variety of Red Guns throughout our missions. Gun 5 Iguazu and Gun 4 Volta accompany us during the mission Attack the Dam Complex, and Iguazu accompanies us yet again in the mission to destroy the Ice Worm. But the most boisterous personality and the one that primarily speaks to us has to be the commander of the Red Guns, Gun 1 Michigan. Gun 1 Michigan is a militaristic drill sergeant who seems to revel in sarcastic comments against his own subordinates. However, he's happy to banter back and forth instead of sending a retaliating Red Gun to punishment. It's undeniable that he cares about the people he serves alongside and tries their best to keep them alive. He gives 621 the call sign Gun 13, making him an honorary Red Gun even though 621 is an independent mercenary, and will refer to 621 as Gun 13 on every mission that Balaam provides support on. In contrast, the Vesper we get to learn the most about is V4 Rusty. Rusty primarily becomes comrades with us, 621. He enjoys referring to us as his war buddy, and will be by our side during some of the more impactful missions in the game. First, he helps us to climb the wall, then accompanies us during our first sighting of the Ice Worm. During the joint mission to destroy the Ice Worm, Rusty is in charge of firing the RAD rail cannon at the worm to destroy its shields. His respect for our skill and us is apparent, and he likely becomes a lot of players' favorite character during the first playthrough. So, the decision to ambush the Vespers and destroy V5 Hawkins and V8 Pater, or a choice to intercept the Red Guns and take down Gun 1 Michigan, weighs heavy on us. The will to choose weighs heavy. Should you choose to ambush the Vespers, you will join Middle Flatwell of the RLF to take down Hawkins and Pater. Pater we've met before via briefings and debriefings for Arquebus. Hawkins is new to us. By this point, you very well may have fought their data in the arena. To meet them here on the battlefield is something else entirely. V8 Pater's AC is fittingly named Dual Nature. There are moments throughout the fight where his ruthlessness shines through more than any, including trying to use Hawkins as a stepping stone and gain his number. But if we are to strike Hawkins down before Pater,
V5 Hawkins down.
No! V5, come in! V5, Peter. It doesn't sound too bad.
The reaction from Pater here is unlike any other in the game. To have such a visceral response to the death of V5 Hawkins in the middle of the fight is one of the most sobering moments I felt in the game. It's almost instantly juxtaposed with Pater's death. True to the namesake of his AC, the moment you down Pater, his dual nature comes out.
No! I just made V5!
V8 Pater down. Both Vespers have been eliminated.
And the Vespers are taken care of without a sound from 621. You find out during the debriefing that V4 Rusty took the contract to take down Gun 1 Michigan in your stead, and succeeded to the displeasure of Handler Walter.
About the request to attack the Red Guns. Sounds like V4 Rusty took care of it. Michigan's dead. Heard he went down fighting. Balaam's withdrawn from Rubicon. The politicians will be fighting their war now. Where there's coral, there's blood. That's how it's always been, 621.
It's worse if you choose to kill Gun 1 Michigan.
Just get it done. There's nothing more for me to say.
Walter is obviously conflicted here, but why? Diving a bit deeper into the lore of Armored Core 6, we find out that Walter was a part of the Rubiconian Research Institute. His father was a scientist who devoted his life to understanding coral. After the fires of Ibis, the incident where all the coral on Rubicon was set ablaze, Walter was sent to the colonies on Jupiter. Before he joined Balaam, Michigan was a commander for the Furlong Armed Forces, and during the Jupiter War, he quickly rose to prominence and became regarded as a hero. There's significant speculation regarding these two facts. Since both of these characters were placed on Jupiter around the same time, it can be speculated that Michigan took a young Walter under his wing. It's further evidenced by the banter that Walter and Michigan have throughout the game, especially during a subsequent playthrough of the Attack the Dam Complex mission, where you have an opportunity to attack Gun 4 Volta and Gun 5 Iguazu.
Confirmed. Gun 4 and Gun 5 eliminated. You can bill me for the AC repair fees, Michigan.
You've ruined our little field trip, Walter. I'll be billing you for tuition fees, too.
It's sarcastic, almost playful in a way, whereas if something like this happened to the Arquebus Corporation, the response would likely be much more vitriolic. That playful, sarcastic nature survives until Michigan's very end.
Maggots. You read me? You can tell this to posterity. Mean old Michigan died of a bad fall.
AC Liger Tail destroyed. Gun 1 Michigan down.
I really want to emphasize the reactions to 621's actions. I want to push the idea of the will to choose being given to not only 621, but us as the player, and the way that our actions affect the characters in-game. Because we have to remember that visibly, it does not affect 621. All we see of 621 is what we ourselves create for them. The only thing that represents 621 is the armored core that we put them into. Every single death that we have gone through so far, the Tester AC pilot, Swinburne, Pater and Hawkins, and now Michigan, all of them are reacted to in one way or another by the characters around us. It affects us, the player, much, much more than it affects our character, 621. That contrast is extremely interesting to me. We don't get to see 621 at all, so the only implications that 621 feels anything is the way they move their armored core. And as anyone who has played this game can tell you, these armored cores are not exactly easy to move around. They're meant for combat, for war, for special operations. They're not meant to convey emotions. Every emotion that we try to read from 621 is inherently implicit, because any sort of communication that 621 gives to other characters is off-screen. There is a point after Ayre joins that 621 mentions her to Walter somehow. Walter initially dismisses her as a side effect of the augmentation surgery. 621 can also accept or refuse certain mission objectives, such as the one with Swinburne, with characters able to acknowledge the acceptance or refusal. How that communication is given is unknown to us as the player, but it must be limited. That lack of communication makes the final decision that you are given so much more devastating. Through the course of the last 2 chapters in the game, 2 things become clear. 1. Walter and Carla are part of an organization known as Overseer, who are tasked with overseeing the coral and monitoring it, preparing to burn it all once again and eradicate it from existence to prevent a phenomenon known as a coral collapse. Since coral grows exponentially in a vacuum, Overseer fears that if it ever reaches space, it will spread across the universe before anyone can stop it, and all it will need is one spark to ignite the entire universe in a reaction that will obliterate everything. In order to stop this from happening, Overseer plans to take the floating city known as Xylem and crash it directly where all the coral is converging, the vascular plant, where Arquebus is attempting to siphon all of the coral on Rubicon. This would ignite the coral and, hypothetically, destroy every trace of it. The second thing that becomes clear is that Overseer, Walter, and Carla are completely unaware of the fact that coral contains consciousness. Ayre is a consciousness within the coral. Due to our limited capacity, we are never able to make it apparent, either to Walter or Carla or anyone, that coral is sentient. So when Ayre gives us a mission to eliminate Cinder Carla, instead of intercepting the corporate forces attacking the Xylem, it becomes abundantly and painfully obvious what we must choose between. We are choosing to carry out the mission of the man who brought us to Rubicon, who pointed us where we needed to go and told us what we needed to do, who learned to treat us with respect rather than treat us like just another one of his hounds. Or we are choosing to save the consciousness that has been learning alongside us, growing alongside us, who treated us with sympathy and care from the very start, who trusted in the meaning of the Raven call sign. We are choosing between Walter and Ayre. During your first playthrough, you can only get one ending. Either one is a reasonable ending, but you must play through the game again in order to get the other ending. The second playthrough has significant differences from the first, and knowing what you know now, it takes on an entirely different meaning. I think every Armored Core 6 player remembers the first ending that they chose, the will to choose. Choosing to eliminate Cinder Carla will put you in a fight against the eponymous Carla. You're in direct opposition of Handler Walter's wishes now, and the wishes of Overseer. Your actions have put you at odds against Carla and her right hand, Chatty. They have their mission and will continue to push forward, yet they don't particularly understand why you're opposing them.
What? The partition's locked us in!
Well, hi, tourist. How much did Arquebus pay you? Hate to see you go. Actually, why don't you stick around?
I'll handle the partition. You take care of this.
As you arrive, Carla and Chatty wait in their ACs, full course and circus respectively. Knowing that there's not much they can do to talk you down once you've made your decision, they prepare for battle.
I don't know what you're up to, but you better make it worth it.
Now that you've made your choice, Raven, it's time to commit to the path that your wings are taking you on.
Walter told me, you know. Looks like you made a friend of your own. But it's good to make a choice. Sit on the fence, and you make no enemies. Or friends.
This is bad, Chief. Some tourist.
Chatty? Did you just laugh? I owe you one, tourist. No one's ever made him laugh before.
Chief, get your laughs. While you can.
Chatty! You've done it now, tourist. times like this, I can't help but laugh. Is that all you've got? Come on! At least stay for dessert, tourist! You win again, tourist. That's not to say we've lost.
What? The Xylem's control center is locked out.
There's no stopping this ship now. Last job. Daddy.
Owner, Cinder Carla. Vital signs lost. Activating perimeter protocol. Xylem propulsion vector locked. All systems locked out.
The despair in Carla's voice as she realizes Chatty's AC was destroyed definitely became one of the more sobering moments I experienced during my first playthrough of the game. The more pressing matter, however, is that the Xylem is on a crash course with the plant, and we're the only ones who can stop it. The next mission, Destroy the Drive Block, is a significant step forward. As we determine the next course of action with Ayre, she mentions that she used our name, Raven, to call allies to our aid. Not only did it work, it inspired the Rubicon Liberation Front to fight back against the corporations fully in an all-out war. Our actions caused this. We became a symbol of resolve, just like the original Raven, without a word spoken. Sure enough, one of the most beloved characters in the game joins us here.
It looks like the guest of honor's here. Hey, buddy. Never thought I'd be rubbing shoulders with the Liberator of Rubicon. Every Rubiconian who heard your cry rose up to fight. Let's show them there's a future for Rubicon beyond these scorched skies.
This mission is all meant to wrap up the conflict between the corporations and the RLF. We take down the drive block of the Xylem and all the generators, and we fight the last stalwart of the corporations, V2 Snail, who has taken over Arquebus Balteus, all while Rusty handles the rest of the enemies off screen. You two celebrate your victory until suddenly,
Confirmed. V2 Snail, down.
Sounds like it's over. I just about managed.
Rusty's signal cuts out, interrupted by the sound of a choral weapon. We have no time to dwell on the death of our war buddy. We have to finish the job. The final mission of the Liberator of Rubicon ending strikes me as one of the most heartbreaking in the entire game. As we take out the engines and send the Xylem hurtling back to Rubicon, a choral weapon greets us. There stands an armored core we don't recognize, but a voice we most certainly do.
Is that you? They... 621. I have to dispose of you.
Walter! But that AC... Picking up a choral response. Watch out!
Walter and Ayre's dialogue throughout this fight sends home the fact that this is the weakest and most vulnerable Walter has ever been. Delirious, forced to turn against the hound that he became comrades with. There's a moment where Walter, due to either his re-education or the coral-based armored core that he pilots, can see Ayre.
That voice. 621. I see it next to you. Yes. Kindling for the fire.
His lines after this are either momentary breaks in delirium or a premeditated message, one that Walter yearned to tell you after you finish the job. I'm inclined to believe it's the latter.
You have to burn every last cinder. Burn the coral, and our job will be over. You earned all the credits. Undo the surgery. Be normal again.
As the fight enters its final phases, the hum of the xylem re-entering the atmosphere becomes a scream. Metal clashes with metal, and with each strike, the bonds that carried 621 and Walter begin to crumble. Ayre, seeing this, becomes desperate. She doesn't want to lose you. She doesn't want you to lose Walter.
Raven! Walter! This has to stop!
But only one of you can walk away.
The mission. My friends' wishes. Look at you, 621. You found a friend.
Walter! We have to go, Raven.
The Liberator of Rubicon ending is the prime example of the player feeling what 621 does not. 621 does not feel the weight of Walter's words, or if they do, they are not able to express it. The silence is the impact. They have destroyed their mentor. They have saved Walter from himself in what ultimately was a vain attempt at a corporation looking for revenge against an independent mercenary. Our only emotions are the ones we feel from Ayre's voice, and the ones we must grapple with as the player. Before I dive too deeply into this, I want to speak about the other option we could have chosen, back at the very beginning of the final chapter. The choice to intercept the corporate forces aligns you with Overseer, Walter, and Carla and their quest to burn the coral away. In doing so, this puts you in direct opposition with Ayre, the coral mutation who has synchronized with your brainwaves. The mission begins almost the exact same way as Eliminate Cinder Carla. You're atop the xylem, battling corporate forces in order to break through, but this time is different. You're charging through to make it to Chatty in order to help him battle the corporations on the starboard wing, all in preparation to face the leader of the Vespers, V1 Freud. Freud makes his appearance and immediately eliminates Chatty before 621 or Carla can react.
Let's get this trash out of the way.
Chatty! Chatty, he's...
AI-controlled AC, always the same.
Do it, tourist.
The sudden destruction of Chatty is enough for Carla to leave you alone on comms. It's a haunting moment. Ayre has left you. Carla has left you. Even Freud gets tired of V2 Snail's interjections and mutes him. It leaves you and Freud completely alone, fighting the battle, and boy is Freud thrilled.
I'm glad I chose your company over Snail's. You fight like a hound on the hunt. At this altitude, I'd expected a scavenger bird.
This line is fairly self-explanatory, but in case you weren't paying attention, like me, he's outwardly remarking on how the way 621 fights is that of Walter's hounds. Because this path has led us down the one of our mentor's last wishes. The path, perhaps, of C4621, the other path, the one of the independent mercenary who has the will to choose and actively chooses against their mentor, well, that would be the path of Raven.
Sorry to leave you hanging, tourist. Watch those laser drones. Takes serious skill to use them the way he does.
It is only after the battle continues that Carla is able to collect herself after the death of her friend. Yet even as she returns to be your operator, the despair in her voice is evident, an emotion we really haven't heard from Carla before. It's despondence mixed with reserved, seething anger towards Freud. As the battle continues, you deliver a final blow, destroying the locksmith AC and avenging the death of Chatty. Yet even though Freud's death has brought a sense of closure, Carla still lost her friend, as evidenced by the rattling breath she takes before speaking.
Confirmed. V1. Freud down.
After the mission, you're contacted by Carla, who has done her best to collect herself. There's a line here I want to specifically highlight for the purposes of this video. I'm sure you'll catch it too.
Just went to say goodbye to Chatty. He was an AI I developed. Could have moved him into a new body, but... well, I never could bring myself to back him up. Be like taking the life out of him. You seem like you've lost someone too. Hope I'm just imagining things.
This is one of the few moments where whatever image we have of 621 is temporarily replaced by a line that challenges our perception. Somehow, someway, 621 is exhibiting behavior that shows how much the loss of Ayre is affecting them. They weren't able to outwardly express this sorrow when losing Walter, though all things considered, there wasn't anyone outside of Ayre to express them to. The loss of Ayre is enough for 621 to have a reaction, and it's enough of a reaction for Carla to notice it. That is extremely meaningful because us, the player, likely feel the same way. We lost the voice that has been kind to us from the very start. Even Walter, who learned to respect us, started off as brash and callous. Ayre didn't. The next mission, Breach the Carmen Line, takes us face to face with the Arquebus Interceptor fleet. In Destroy the Drive Block, this fleet was what Rusty was dealing with off screen while we fought V2 Snail in the Arquebus Balteus. Now, we've got to deal with it ourselves. Luckily, the Carmen Line is flowing with residual coral, enough to grant us an unlimited source of energy. We successfully take down the Interceptor fleet with the help of Carla, who turns it into a friendly competition. As the final Interceptor is downed, Carla spots an unidentified AC on the Xylem.
Here we are, buddy. I was right all along. You were just another threat to Rubicon.
I personally had a soft spot for Rusty. I believed he was one of the most genuine characters in the entire game. There was a sense of respect that he had for us after the various missions we were involved in together. His constant referral to us as his war buddy became endearing. Even during the fight, his nickname for us never wavers. For some, this is the most heartbreaking fight in the entire game. It's a challenge to fight someone who respected you throughout the entirety of this saga, even though we see nothing. The fact that Rusty remarks on our resolve is just another bit of characterization for 621. Yet we must power through and defeat our war buddy.
You flew just out of reach, buddy.
Buddy, huh? Do him a favor, tourist. Remember him. Satellite cannons? This isn't right. There's no way the corpse took the closure system. Who's controlling them?
Carla's right. It's not the corporations who have taken control of the planetary closure system.
Raven, I was the one who fired the satellite cannons. I know that you've made your choice. Then I must do my duty as a Rubiconian.
The final mission of this route is called Shut Down the Closure Satellites. But in reality, it is a confrontation. You have chosen to eliminate Ayre and her entire race by following Walter's last wishes. Carla continues to pilot the Xylem as you arrive to the closure station. There, Ayre has taken control of an Ibis Series C weapon, IB-07 Sol 644.
The voices of the Coral. And yet you turned your back on our shared potential. You want to silence us forever. I will stop you. You will never burn Rubicon.
Your combat mode is activated, and you stare down one of your former operators. One of you has to make a move.
I will stop you and the Xylem, carrying our shared resolve on the wings of this machine. Symbiosis, a shared life. I saw the potential for our future within you. You and I could have walked together. I realize what you are. The spark of war. The fires that haunt Rubicon. No, my brothers and sisters.
As the metal clashes, the sound echoing through the closure station, your respective resolves spark into blazes. But only one of you can walk away.
Humanity wants to burn it all. Everything on Rubicon. I won't let you. Your fire must die. Raven, I still believe our shared dream.
Fires of Raven ending is the prime example of the player feeling what 621 does not. It is not 621 who bonds with these characters. It is us, the player. 621 does not feel the weight of Ayre's words, or if they do, they are not able to express it. The silence is the impact. But you've heard this before, haven't you? The reality is, neither of these endings are particularly good. Yes, of course, the end result is the choice between destroying a sentient conscious form of energy or saving it. But the losses suffered in both endings are heavy. There is no good choice. There is a third ending as well, one you must play the game 3 times in order to experience. The choices in that ending, alongside the characters that they develop and the overarching story implications, those are for another video. I implore you to play Armored Core 6 and experience the 3 separate playthroughs for yourself. My voice does not do it justice. Ultimately, the story of 621 is not one of growth or redemption. It is not even a story of agency despite the choices presented to us. It is a story of absence, a protagonist who exists only to serve, to obey, to act without ever reacting. 621 does not speak. 621 does not grieve. Therefore, we, the player, are left to fill the void where their emotions should be. Every life taken or spared is not felt by 621, but by us, the one controlling them. It is through this emptiness that I think Armored Core 6 forces us to confront our own choices more intimately than if 621 had been given a voice or a face. It's a strange dynamic because the world around 621 is anything but emotionless. The pilots, the operators that are guiding them, the factions that are warring for control over Rubicon. All of them display their own convictions in these separate blazes of glory. Look at how Swinburne pleads for his life, how Pater broke down in grief, how Walter broke through re-education in his final moments and saw that 621 had evolved. The game is filled with these moments of raw emotion, but never from the one character that we play as. The silence of 621 becomes more than a void. It becomes this mirror, reflecting back at us the weight of every action that we have taken in their name. Then we look at the final choice, whether to burn the coral and silence Ayre, or reject Walter's mission and fight for a new future. This decision is not framed as a personal struggle for 621. Ultimately, there's no hesitation, no doubt, no internal conflict, no struggle, no reluctance, only action. 621 moves forward without acknowledging the weight of this decision. If Ayre leaves us, Carla senses something in 621's posture, but it's left ambiguous, a shadow of an emotion that may or may not exist. If we fight Walter, his last words go unresponded to, his presence vanishing and being obliterated without any acknowledgement from 621. And yet for us as the players, these moments hit like a punch to the gut. We are the ones who feel the cost of these choices because 621 cannot. This is what makes 621 such a haunting and interesting protagonist. They are almost less than a person or a character, closer in design to a function, an instrument of war whose only defining characteristic is their ability to follow orders. The player's agency is the only thing that gives 621 any sense of identity, yet that identity is still entirely external. There may be hope for them in the future, especially in the mention of reverting the surgery, but in the context of the game, the only difference between the endings is what we, the players, have come to understand about 621. There are moments where the illusion cracks, where something more seems to linger beneath the surface. Carla in the Fires of Raven ending sees something in 621, that glimpse of loss when Ayre leaves them. It's not a moment of explicit emotion, but just this little implication. Small enough to be overlooked, but large enough to be felt. If 621 does feel, if there is something buried deep beneath the conditioning and augmentation, then it is something we will never see as a player. Something 621 may not even be able to comprehend. It is this ambiguity that cements 621 as one of the most compelling silent protagonists I've ever seen. 621's lack of a voice isolates them. They are not us, they are separate and distant. This is not out of character when it comes to other From Software titles, like Dark Souls and Bloodborne. In those games, however, it's a bit more understandable. There's not that many people in these worlds to talk to. Armored Core 6, on the other hand, has a lot of talking. Every mission, someone is either guiding you or remarking on what you're doing. I think the most particular and similar example of a protagonist like 621 would be the Knight from Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight fits in this exact same mold as 621. To elaborate more on that, I'd have to do a deep dive into Hollow Knight, which is not what this video is about. Play both games and I think you'll catch my wavelength. The main thing I want to focus on with 621 is that their silence does not only create this detachment, it creates this weight. Every moment of grief, every dying breath that we hear, every lost ally, every choice that we must make is made heavier by the fact that we will never know how or even if 621 feels anything about it. And so the burden of those emotions is placed entirely on us as the player. Armored Core 6 is all about the emotions that we are forced to project onto a character who cannot feel them, and how projecting those feelings onto 621 ends up reflecting them back at us. The game leaves us to grapple with the aftermath of our choices alone, not because 621 chooses not to, but because they cannot do so themselves. And so when the final battle is won and the credits roll, 621's story has either finished or a new chapter has yet to be written, while we, the ones left holding the controller, are left with the weight of everything 621 will never get to say. That is why I consider 621 one of the most haunting and complex protagonists that I've ever had the pleasure of experiencing. Thank you all so much for watching. I am sorry that this video took so long. I got sick in the middle of making it, and I was bedridden for almost 2 weeks, and it sucked, but I came back, and we are better than ever. But thank you again for watching. This might be the biggest project I've ever done, so if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. I love you all, and please take care.